think about it. If you're coming from this, then we're naturally drawn back to it.
Yeah.
It's like, why is music sounding resonant? Now, why do we have sounds? Some feel good, some don't.
Yeah.
Because they are an expression of the same thing. We're naturally going towards these things because they're in us. We still need a lot of attention in that detail, how to make things work more simple so everybody has an idea what's really happening. The number one reaction I get is mind-blowing. This is like the one word that everybody's saying. It's mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. It's like I can see what happens to people because that happened to me. It's like you get this spark of like, I see things differently.
Join the journey, stay for a while.
Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of KohPhanCast, the official podcast of Copenhagen Island. And this week with me, Dr. Heike Bielek. She did her PhD in biology. She's full power on sacred geometry, a field of knowledge which I'm super into. She came here and sat with me talking about sacred geometry, where it's coming from, where it's going, the energetical part of it, the physical part of it, the scientific part of it. We had an amazing conversation about consciousness, about life, about actions. Before we get to the episode, guys, you know the drill. Like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel. Let me know in the comments what you thought about the conversation. And let's get into it, guys. KohPhanCast, the official podcast of Copenhagen Island. Enjoy the episode. Heike, thank you so much for being here with me. So usually I'm starting those with complimenting my guest, and honestly, our little encounter at the 7-Eleven was fucking gorgeous. There's something about people with tattoos of sacred geometry that we are going to talk about today that really makes me trust them. There's something about this knowledge that I know that if someone is going after it and knows it, they have this thing inside of them that they are more like, I don't know if it comes out as like sacred. Oh, you don't know sacred geometry? Oh my god! But it's like a blueprint. And thank you for this, because I was looking for someone to talk about sacred geometry with, and I think you're the perfect candidate. So if you want to give like 30-second, 40-second introduction of who you are and what you're doing.
It's a pitch.
Liz.
I'm Heike, and I've been immersed in sacred geometry for the last 10 years. And what is it? It's a blueprint. You said it in the right way. It's a blueprint that describes how reality, the space of reality is structured, is created. And it's intimately linked to who we are, consciousness. So that's what I do. And when people have tattoos, it shows us that there's a sign of elevation of consciousness. And so I think people then resonate already with that. So I see you full of sacred geometry tattoos.
Yeah.
And it says something about you. You already are in tune a little bit with the cosmos, if you're aware of it or not.
It's like, I remember the first time I encountered sacred geometry. It was probably, now I'm 30. I was like 23, I think. I sat at the house of one of my friends, and he had like this huge, the fruit of life, like something huge on his wall that he painted. And it was also the day I first done like DMT, was jumping straight into it. And I remember this form, this fucking structure, and I remember it like going around, changing, shifting, making me understand. Until this day, I'm thinking about what was the cause of this shift of structure that is like so, unique. And it really felt like the shifting happens because it's like we say, it's a blueprint of the universe that we exist in. And like, there is no way to change the structure for our universe. You know what I mean? Like, our geometrical shapes are unique to our universe, which is kind of parallel to this. I don't know even what I'm saying. Yeah, I'm just trying to get it out there. But like, the more you have it. While I'm mumbling here, you can feel. Yeah, definitely. So it kind of showed me that the world is so unique as it is. That like all we have to do is just look for the signs, make everything kind of, I don't want to say make sense because it doesn't really make sense, all of this. But when was the first time you encountered the word of geometry, of sacred beings?
I think we all encountered at the same time. It was in school, no?
Probably.
You remember geometry in school?
Oh, I don't know if I want to, but I do.
Yeah, a lot of people have traumas about that. I think the thing is we don't really link the geometry and the mathematics that we learn in school to sacredness. And so the sacred part came into my life much later, which was when I got into yoga and spirituality, and you see all the mandalas everywhere. All the temples, all the churches have the sacred symbolism. And if you Google sacred geometry, that's actually the first definition of what sacred geometry is. It's like a meaning within shapes. But now that I've been into this much longer, it's actually much more than that. It's not just about the spiritual meaning. It's an architecture of reality. It is science.
Yeah.
I mean, science is about observing reality and trying to figure out what are the laws. And in a way, geometry is how the space is working. Now, in science, you can always just measure the things that are in the space, like energy or whatever, photons and atoms. But the atoms are held within a form in the space. And the geometry helps us to understand that which we can actually not measure. And so when you said that there's a specific form, yes, there's a specific form for different layers of reality. Like we're existing in a specific geometry. And it does change. The change in the geometry has actually to do with a dynamic of time. Mm-hmm. Because without change, you wouldn't have time, you see? So you're existing in a space that's kind of fixed, but then you're experiencing that space from one moment to the next, from one moment to the next. And that's like the dynamic of the geometry, like breathing. And when you're navigating life, you are attracting things into your reality, that are specific also to you. So there is somehow a direct link between the reality, the geometry of the reality, and how you're acting in that reality and how you're attracting things. Because what is the geometry telling us? It's telling us that you're living in a code.
Yeah.
You're living in like a matrix, a simulation. And that simulation is directly linked to who you are. So it is individualistic, and at the same time, it is kind of generalistic as well, because there's the universe is working like that.
Yeah, it was always in my mind the fact that, like, okay, there is a difference, between us as humans, between the way we perceive things, but also like when we look about not what we're doing, but how we are doing it. That's where the similarities of all of us are starting to form, we all want to be loved. We all want to be a part of something. We all want to feel fulfilled. And that's exactly like how each one of us perceive life through, like very simple situations that is becoming like complex the more you observe them from, a bigger point of view, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Like sacred geometry that is starting with like a circle or a line or a dot, and then it can show you really, okay, I can look at the situation or the thing I'm looking at as this big complex thing, but I can simplify it to the more and more like easy and you have something to show me?
Yeah, I do.
Please do. Show me some stuff.
That's just like exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. When you learn to look at the small details of life and the easy and easy to understand shapes and situations that we go through, it's just easier to live life, than when you look about structure like this. Okay, guide me through it.
I mean, it's okay. There's two things you said. On the one hand, it's like, why are we behaving in certain ways? Why are we looking for love? Why do we resonate? All of this is hidden within the blueprint, because the blueprint is showing us how everything is interrelated. Yeah. There is no me outside of it. You're part of it. Like the circles of the flower of life. You are one circle, but that circle is overlapping with other circles. Yeah. So we're all an interconnected web. And then at the same time, you could say, how do you look at that web? You're looking at it from your perspective, and then it can be quite overwhelming because it looks complex, like this shape. If you look at it and you look it into detail, oh my God, it's so complex and it's infinite. Or you can zoom out and you can look at it from above. You look at the whole thing and you can break it down into something very simple. Yeah, it's actually just a triangle divided into 4. And then each upside, the triangle is again creating the same pattern.
Yeah.
So actually, it's not about understanding every single detail. It's just understanding the overarching pattern.
Yeah.
And that makes, that's the same with life, You're going through life and why is this happening? Why is this happening? And later on, maybe you look at it again from another angle. And you're like, that's what it was. There was that pattern.
Yeah. And like, it looks like at the end of the day, what is shifting is not the thing that we are looking at, it is the way that we choose to look at it. Like the things are what they are just because they are what they are, like our perspective on it honestly changes nothing about the thing, I think, like, or it is, or the thing doesn't even exist by itself, but what is deciding how it will look is how we choose to look at it. Like I'm just mumbling around because this subject is so huge, that thinking, oh yeah, I understand how it works. No, bro, you formed as some sort of way to make yourself comfortable with the thought that you do understand how it works. But do we just connect dots that aren't really connected to each other? Or what's the mechanism of us as human? That's a very big question that you don't have to supply an answer to. Yeah, perspective will be just as fine. But do you remember the encounters that you had with it and when you started to actually dive in this world and how it suddenly, because it made magic for me, so I'm sure it made some magic for you as well. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, okay, you have to understand a bit more about my background.
Please.
So, I'm actually a scientist. So I've been, in the scientific mindset and community for like 10 years. So I studied biotechnology, then I did my PhD in biology. And so I come from a very particular way of thinking. And when I stepped into geometry and with that also opening up to spirituality, I started to see science in a whole new way. It's like you've been working with this thing and you looked at it in a certain angle and all of a sudden you can look at the same thing and it's very different. And for me, that was the magic. It was like how my perception changed with data. Because the thing is, in science, we're often very, separated in our views, so very specialized. So a mathematician is a mathematician, a physicist is a physicist, a chemist is over there, and a biologist, let's not talk about biology, kind of, there's a hierarchy already. And
Don't get offended.
And a musician is here, artist is there, the spiritual person. But really, all of this is like looking at the elephant. This is a very funny metaphor. Imagine there's 10 blind men and the elephant. Yeah. And so one person is touching the foot. And it's like, oh, it's a tree. One is touching the nose. And it's like, oh, it's a snake. Everybody's trying to figure out that elephant and they all have their own perception of it. Yeah. So what I found with geometry was like you're looking at the elephant. It's not looking like a part of it. You're looking at the elephant. And so now, when I see all of these different belief systems and ideas and approaches to reality, it's just different ways to look at the elephant. It's a different way of looking at geometry. But once you have the geometric blueprint, you can all of a sudden see what they're saying. You don't have to be a mathematician or a musician. You can see the pattern. And once you see the pattern, it's like your mind clicks. And then something that was so complicated becomes very simple all of a sudden. And then when you see clearly, you can also understand life in a whole new way and why you're here. Like I can see how it changes my perception of my life and who I am and what is my mission here. So that all clicked in. Before I was lost. And now I feel like, oh, I have a very clear mission. I want to go there and I'm doing this. And so this changed everything for me.
So you said your eyes got open to the sacred geometry 10 years ago. So let's go a little bit before that. Yeah, we spoke about you being a scientist, and let's go for some background for your childhood. Do you remember any kind of signs that would navigate you to this sacred geometry? Do you remember anything that you made you resonate like, oh, I've seen this shit before?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I like to talk about is the fact that I looked at the stars. I was wondering about infinity. Like that was really something so mind-blowing. And I asked my dad, what's after that? What's after that? Well, it never stops. What do you mean it never stops? That was so mind-blowing for me as a child. It's like, how can something be infinite? And that kind of fed my imagination and curiosity. And another part of that was I always wanted to become an educator in some sense, somebody who would transmit knowledge. I want to be a teacher, I want to be a professor or whatever. So kind of life already gives you a certain direction. That curiosity merged with this idea what I wanted to do. And then first it was like, the conditioning, the society, like, yeah, you go to that path and then you realize actually that's not really what you want to do. I start to listen to myself and then this whole other world open. And so I guess it started there as a child already, that curiosity, and it led me in the right kind of pathway, checking back in on myself, what I really want to do,
Mm-hmm. And your way as a scientist, let's talk a little bit about that. When did you decide that you're going to be, you're going to discover new things, you're going to, what was the inspiration for you to pursuing this way of living?
Well, I guess there's two parts of my personality. One is like naturally given, and one is like very hard work. One that was naturally given was creativity. I'm a natural creative. I'm an artist, a musician. I'm doing all of these things, dancer, naturally. But the science was like, no, here I have to work with my intellect. And I wanted to challenge myself, that I can do it. So even though I wanted to be an artist, I pushed myself towards the other direction. I was like, okay, I'm going to do that. And that pathway was very difficult because it wasn't so easy. I had to really study a lot and I had to prove myself. And then I was wondering, why did I do this? Why did I actually do this? But now I know, because I needed to have that background to do what I do now, where everything all of a sudden comes together and the art and the spiritual and the science click in with this beautiful sacred geometry. And I feel like, I haven't done anything wrong. I had to go through that pathway to get here.
And it's also so easier to talk about sacred geometry, I think, like that when you have like your diploma. No, I'm not this hippie bullshit. Like I have credentials. Like I can talk about, like, whether we want or not, people are looking at it, and when you come and tell them, no, listen, bro, I'm a scientist.
I'm a scientist. Listen to me.
I am, because you're not, and you can listen to me because I know what the fuck I'm talking about. At some point you're like, okay, people, like, I don't want to say different people, but regular people, like, living life, they tend to believe more people that studied, people that show them. And honestly, as I see it, like, when you have this side of that is much more natural, music, dancing, and going for the other side is just pushing more towards balance. Because when you do have this natural side of you that is like just doing things as they are, but you are pushing yourself to study and get to the other side, like, it feels like two sides of your personality is meeting in the middle to create what you need to be, which is beautiful. And let's dig in. I want to dig into this scientist side of things. Like, while you're going and study, how long did you study for? What type of scientist are we talking about?
Biology PhD.
Biology PhD.
Mm-hmm.
How was the studying?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
How is the studying anyway? You just have to learn a lot of things, a lot of formulas and all of that. Yeah, biochemistry pretty hard. Yeah, you just disciplined and do that. So yeah,
it wasn't, go through it.
Yeah, you just go through it. It wasn't the most fun thing. But yeah.
That's for sure. But what was the biggest thing that you took from?
Okay, so one of the biggest things that I took from it, and why I also left it, was like, I feel like, that's what I said already, we're so specialized, you're a PhD or whatever, but really, you're really, really educated in a very particular area. Yeah. It's like you can't even step out of it. And this is where I felt like is a lack in science. It's like we're not discussing things on a broader angle, biologists or biochemists, they are meeting in their little field, and then, the physicists are here, but actually, we're all looking at the same reality. And at the moment, what's missing is also how things are actually connected. I was always really interested in making maps, how to make things simple. How do you see, okay, this is coming from here, that's coming from here, what's the bigger picture, and how is that relating to that? So only when you have all of that data, you can really understand what's going on. And that was just like an endless tunnel of more and more information, overflowing information, without having, the structure and understanding what's really going on. And that's why I feel like, we still need a lot of attention in that detail, how to make things work more simple so everybody has an idea what's really happening. And so that's why when I go back to the geometry now, It's like you can make things like mind maps where you can draw in the information in such a way that you can see more clearly. That's one of the technologies that we're also building, from this geometric blueprint. How are you working with all of this information? Because right now we're living in an information age and you're overflooded with social media and everything like that. But is that really the things that are important for you to understand at this moment? No. You actually only need to know what is the most important information that you need in this particular moment to reach the next stage of whatever you want to achieve. And so I think that's also one of the benefits or the technologies that could come out of this blueprint, how to actually help us with technologies in the information age to help us just, don't get overwhelmed with information, just understand what's the most efficient thing to do. And so everything could click in. Everybody could play a role in this blueprint. You don't need to know all the things. You don't need to. You just need to know what's important for you. So you can do the things that are important for the collective.
Yeah, honestly, that makes sense. And for someone that wants to get inside this world, like, do you remember how you connected the geometry? Yeah, for sure, we all learned about geometry at school, but do you remember the time when you suddenly connected with the spiritual side of things?
I mean, my story goes back to meeting my business partner, in Goa, and he's a pretty amazing genius.
We're waiting for him here.
Yes, yeah, one day he will come. But yeah, he was showing me a lot about how there is an underlying blueprint. I didn't know it at the time. I only knew that, well, there's science and there's spirituality and they seem to be separate. And he was the first one who said, like, look, actually, it's all a geometric blueprint. And that geometry already existed. It existed in all cultures, in all buildings, in the symbolism. You could go to the ancient Greeks. And now we just need to bring it back and see at the modern scientific data and see, like, look, actually, they're saying these are platonic solids. And if you look at the atoms, actually platonic solids. And I was like, oh my God, you're right. That is actually true. But you have to shift your perception to see that, those symmetries. And that was the moment it clicked in. And I just pursued that pathway from then on, and it started to open up this whole world of like heavy science as well.
Yeah.
I mean, we wrote 2 books, and writing these 2 books has been quite a challenge because you have to go back, not just spiritual. No, we have to really go back to the hardcore science.
Yeah.
What's actually happening in the quantum world? How do atoms look like? What's the mathematics? How do you build a geometric blueprint that is based on the flower of life? Because we're all saying, the spiritual people saying, everything is encoded within the Metatron's cube. They're right, but how is it encoded? How is that making sense? How is it confirming what we are observing in science? And that's been my work, in the last 10 years to actually dive into the scientific side and build a blueprint that explains how multidimensional space is actually created. Yeah, what is actually 3D? What is actually 4D? And where do we find that in the nature? Where do we find it in the spirals of the nature, in the Fibonacci sequence, in the atom, in the solar system, and also around us as the energetic beings that we are, and that what people have been teaching in the esoteric realms. It's like, how is that all fitting together? And yeah, we came up with a pretty solid blueprint.
Enlighten me. Please give me that, to the average person, like, how do you, like, define this? I don't want to call it theory because it's exact science, but how do you say it to a person without getting them kind of, what the fuck are you talking about?
I mean, there's different ways how you can approach this. Let's say we're just here, okay? We don't even need to talk about geometry. You're here right now. How do you experience this reality? How do you experience it?
Honestly, it's all made out of math at the end of the day. Like, everything has an angle, everything has like weight, everything has definition, everything is made out of, it feels like code. Everything has the defining points that makes it exist exactly as it is, so when you understand, and again, as a guy that is living this reality of sacred geometry, you can see that the whole thing, the change is not the energy that the thing has, it's how much of certain things change inside the structure, if also that makes sense. I'm I'm speaking to a doctor and
No
I
worries.
have no fucking clue what I'm saying.
You have a lot. And you're completely right. I mean, you're observing reality from here, and you can see that there are symmetries, right? Here, the plants,
Yeah.
all of this wouldn't exist in that symmetry if there wouldn't be mathematics behind it, right? There would be chaos, but it's not. There's a very particular way how we perceive this reality. We're here at the center, by the way, always at the center of a reality, whatever you're doing. You can go on a bicycle and you're always at the center. And the reality is kind of like moving, changing around you. That's a different way of looking at it. And then at the same time, like from that center, there's a space, right? You have an up and a down, you have a left and a right, and a front and a back. Your body has a symmetry, which is, by the way, an octahedron. Yeah, up, down, left, right, front, back. If you connect from the outside, it makes a pyramid going up and a pyramid going down. And you're living on Earth that's flat from your perspective. You have a horizon line, you have an up and a down, and that creates already a certain space. And then the question is, if you're looking at the space, you're also having the experience of time. So there's space and time. Einstein already said space and time are interlinked. And then if you're looking at the different realms of this reality from the quantum world, chemistry, biology, the planet, the solar system, there are patterns within that. They're actually the same. If you're looking at the quantum world or the solar system, it's the same ratios, the same pattern. And then you're looking back at what do we know about this reality? Go to our ancient history. What do they say? Well, the ancient Greeks were saying, oh, there's this blueprint, there's this geometric idea of the reality. They were really advanced already back in the day.
Yes, they were.
They were talking about the Platonic solids, like the cube. And they were thinking, oh, there must be some sort of structure. And God, because they were thinking God and philosophy and logic has to be combined. It's not separate. It's all one geometric blueprint, divine blueprint. And they were looking at shapes because shapes create space. And now today we're like, okay, how are these spaces actually, how are they created? And that's when we go to actually what sacred geometry is. This blueprint of the flower of life in the Metatron's cube has been in our awareness since I think the 80s or something, with people, with esoteric teachers talking about it again. And now we're looking at the blueprint. It's like there's a lot of people have information about it. But I guess what we've done was like we're not just looking at the blueprint in 2D and what it encodes, but also what's actually the logical progression of space. How can you actually create multidimensional space? Let's say 3D is a cube. What is the quality of a cube? And what is the quality of other shapes? How do they fit inside of each other? How are they created? And in a way, if I would explain it to you in very simple terms, think about something expands from a singularity, like from a dot.
Yeah.
Yeah? Like we start from there. Everything begins from a dot, right?
Yeah.
And that's even like common, through all of the belief systems, actually. In science, we say it's a singularity, yeah? Then there's a big bang. Yeah. And then from the chaos arises this complexity. In geometry or in mathematics, it's the same. It's a zero. It starts from the zero. Or you could say in spirituality, it starts from the one, the God.
Yeah, religion will also say it started with creation and 7 days and this and that.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's all starting from nothingness, from infinite.
Yeah, from the zero.
Okay.
And we explored the zero quite heavily. How can the zero create actually everything? Because when the dot expands, let's say just in 2D space, it will create a circle automatically. Yeah. There's nothing you can do to prevent that because the circle is like the most expanding form. It has infinite sides. It's the all-encompassing womb of creation. Yeah. And then within a circle, you can create other forms, right? The triangle is inside of a circle. So from that circle, we know that there's a flower of life pattern. But the pattern starts to expand from, let's say, 7 circles. Well, actually 1, then there's 6, and then there's 19.
I'm going to put circle.
Circle.
Yeah.
And so the more circles you have, the more nodes you have, the more dots. And those have relationships to each other and creates these forms. But actually, you don't need to go so far. You just need to go to the first seed of life, which is 6 around 1, 7 circles. And it creates basically the blueprint of the octahedron collapsing, not just collapsing, but actually elevating from a 2D space into 3D.
My God, I'm going to have so much editing work. I'm all good. Well, go. Go. It's a practice for me as well. I haven't dabbled inside those things in quite a while.
So all I'm saying is it's like the Betatron's cube has the 2D blueprint, but there is also a progression of a 3D or multidimensional progression of shape and how they imagine it's like an architecture and the house is being built and it collapses again. It is built and it collapses again. This is actually how I feel like the universe is working.
Yeah.
It's creating all of these layers and it's collapsing. And through this expansion and collapse, it creates time. And it creates all these different realms. And we're inside of that, we say the Earth, which is the cube.
Wait. The Earth and what's the connection to a cube, please, again?
Okay, so...
It's still early.
Yeah,
Come on, you chose it.
The ancient Greeks, they discovered the 5 elements to be associated to the 5 Platonic solids, which are on my arm here. And which is the octahedron, the tetrahedron, the cube, the dodecahedron, and the icosahedron, which is, well, there's a traditional way of looking at the elements. So they were just saying, okay, one is fire, water, earth, air, and ether. Yeah. Which basically, you could say in a modern term, because we don't really see it like this anymore. But if you look at reality...
You don't?
No.
Nobody told me.
Because in chemistry, we have actually 81 stable elements. Okay. If you're looking at the periodic table, So you have hydrogen, helium, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But how they were seeing the world is not in the atomic components. They were just saying, okay, there's something we can touch, solid, what they call earth. We can breathe. So this is air. There's fire, right? Yeah. There's water we can drink. And then there is, we would say electricity today. Yeah, or to say space.
Ether. Instead of ether.
Yeah. It's the electricity.
Electricity.
Yeah, electromagnetism.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Kind of almost like the states of matter that science would define also. Slightly different. But anyway, they were saying the cube is Earth. Mm-hmm. And we would agree with that also. So because what is a cube? How do we define this as Earth? Well, if you look at the atom and a lot of the structures, the crystal structures of atomic bonds, and you see they're all actually cubic. They all have cubic lattices. And so actually a lot of the solid matter is cubic. Actually on the atomic level, it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine.
But because, we're looking at geometry as a fractal. This is a fractal, yeah? It means that the pattern will repeat. So whatever you see in the atom, it also repeats on bigger scales.
Yes.
And if you're thinking about you living in a realm, then it also applies to the realms itself, which means that it's not just cubic here in the atomic realm. There's actually a cube around you too. Actually, all the shapes are around you. Yeah. But at the moment, and that's a spiritual metaphor, you are only perceiving a part of that structure.
How do you call it? Like there's a form that is like a cube and then like a tera something that they can make it like 4-dimensional structure, but see...
It's actually this one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like it's saying like as above so below, like the fractal tells you, if I get it straight, you have everything inside is reflecting on everything outside. You can really come in hand and tell like, okay, so if I want to go for the emotional side of things, what I feel inside myself will eventually manifest itself in the outside world, because what's going in is also what is coming out.
That's correct. It's kind of like this. Mm-hmm. You see that there is actually an energy flow between the inside and the outside. So whatever is inside will go back to the outside, and the outside will collapse into the inside. Mm-hmm. This is called a torus.
A torus, yeah.
Yeah. And that's actually a 4th dimensional shape. I mean, we can talk about the cube as well, but it's quite easy for now.
Well, I'm having fun.
It's the same anyway. It just shows us that there is a relationship between the inside and the outside.
Yeah.
They're not separate. They're one whole.
Yeah.
It's like you're at the center of this. There's a dot at the center, and the dot will expand into the outside, and the outside will collapse. And it's actually your energy field.
Exactly.
It's also the energy field of the Earth, because we know about electromagnetism, and there's a north and a south pole. Yeah. And actually even the whole solar system is wrapped in this thing. Even the whole galaxy has a black hole in the center, And then you have this energy spewing out in the vertical, and it kind of wraps around. It's not like you can see it. You can see aspects of it. You don't always see the whole thing. And even there are some theories about the whole universe looking like this. There must be a center of the universe. So, yes, this is how the dynamic is working. The insight, which is the consciousness, is reflecting outwards into all of these layers, and you perceiving one of these layers.
Yeah, because honestly, compared to sacred geometry, there aren't many fields that can fuck you up that fast. Because trying to understand that, okay, everything I see, has a structure. I'm a fanatic, also sacred geometry everywhere. And I'm still trying to understand what is the main reason that we are so drawn into such, what makes us resonate with those structures, and what makes you resonate with this kind of geometry?
Think about it. If you're coming from this, then we're naturally drawn back to it.
Yeah.
It's like, why is music sounding resonant? Now, why do we have sounds? Some feel good, some don't.
Yeah.
Because they are an expression of the same thing. We're naturally going towards these things because they're in us. It's like beauty. How do you know that somebody's beautiful? Why?
Because as I see it, because you look at him from, like, the beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Like, you create beauty inside of you, and when you choose to look at something as beautiful, it will be.
Yeah, but there's also...
But also, like, when we look at physical beauty, there is a structure to a face of a person that is going through the Fibonacci. Yeah, we're all in it. But I do think that if you don't know about this theory of face structure, you will not be able to see it. Like, if you're not, like, you will be able to see it, but you will not know why the thing that you look at is resonating with you if you don't understand this theory or of face structures and symmetry and things like that.
There's two sides, yeah? One is the creative artistic side. It's kind of like when I was talking about myself, no? And then there is the kind of a logical, technological side. You don't need to be technological minded to understand the theory.
Yeah.
You can tune into yourself and you will already know intuitively, because it's just like the music. As I said, if you're listening to music, then you don't need to understand how the music works. You just need to know, and you just feel the music, and you know it's correct. You know that this is right. It's the same with beauty. You will naturally tend to something that is more mathematically aligned, and you perceive it as beautiful because it's in you. You don't need to think about it.
Yeah, you're drawn into math because you are math.
Exactly. The same with energy. You don't need to understand the energy, but if you feel the energy, then you're already drawn towards that without knowing.
Exactly. Like, the moment we understand that what is separating between us and the universe is not the quality of the matter, it's the quantity of it.
It's both, yeah.
Yeah, and like, the moment we do truly understand that in each of us there's this little God particle, that when we choose to give it fire and give it light, we are a part of something that is bigger than us. And when you understand that, again, the only separation you have from the universe is the amount of atoms that are inside of you and not the quality of them, you're like, oh, okay, so I am a part of creation. And like that, I know that this knowing, like, helped me go through a lot of negative times in my life, that I know that things are not as I want them to be right now, but I trust that our universe works like that. And because I have these symbols with me, and my heart is pure, and my intentions are clear, I have no reason to be scared of anything, because I am part of this. And us as humans, it's so easy for us to, I'm not enough, and things are not working, and I feel like such a small thing in this entire universe, and nobody is looking at me, and blah, 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 and whatever. And then you understand, oh no, I am a significant part of creation. I have a purpose of being here, and I can go and learn why any given moment, which is so beautiful that we live in this times, that we have the ability to learn about things like that, because 50, 60, 70 years ago, you need to go through mountains to learn this kind of, like for me, it's a religion. Sacred geometry is a religion for me specifically, because I see that it's like a lot of different religions, that the essence of it is love. I don't know which point of view other people look at sacred geometry from. I know that for me, it's the heart, it's the essence, it's the glue that makes sense why our universe is still even working and is not falling into chaos. It's the glue, it's the energy, it's the essence, it's the how would I put it in not a too weird way. When you have like a garbage bag, and on the corner of it there's the juice of it, yeah, in a weird fucking way of showing it out. That's it. That's the reason we exist. And each time I've seen that these symbols attract very good people in my life, and it's so I'm so thankful for this creation, for allowing me to discover this so early on. And do you remember times when you were, I don't want to say disconnected, but in a lower point in your life, that it either picked you up or you felt like, fuck this bullshit? Like, tell me a little bit about your process with this knowledge.
Nothing in life is just flow. Everything in life is always up and down, no matter what you're doing. And even I feel like, a lot of people look at me and think, wow, your life is amazing. I mean, it's not always amazing. You're going through your own struggle. And it's actually not so much about the particular moments, whatever happened. It's like, it's a general message about the blueprint. Everything is related to you and who you are. And think about yourself like this infinite potential. It's like this dot. A dot is like an infinity,
Yeah.
And that infinity within the dot has already acquired a lot of experiences. Now we're going a little bit more esoteric, you could say, or spiritual. Like let's say there's this idea, that this is not just one life. There's many, many experiences you have already done. You have a soul journey. And so whatever I have done in my past, with all the traumas and all of the amazing things I've done, led me here to this moment.
Yeah.
And in this moment, whatever is within that dot will reflect outwards, like we saw in this thing. Everything that's in the dot will be reflected in your reality, which means the good and the bad. So you will always be faced with opportunities and challenges. Some of the challenges that I had was actually getting back into mathematics and all this, which is like, hey, I'm just on the beach here in Goa. I want to just do, music and yoga, but now I'm getting into this. And so I had to push myself again to get into that numerical brain. And that's not always been easy, because it's like, oh God, this is like so overwhelming. And I've been taking a lot of pressure from this, because I feel like, it's such a fantastic thing to learn. And at the same time, like, it overwhelms me because I feel like, why is nobody teaching this? I had to acquire this all by myself. And so, there comes the struggle. But it's like the universe is testing you, how much stamina you have, for example. Are you going to continue on this pathway, or are you going to be distracted? So it's like you're always being tested. And in a way, that's also how the reality works. You have a limited perception of who you truly are. Mm-hmm. But underneath it all, there's a much broader perception of who you are. And it's like you're getting back to that God consciousness or whatever, which means that you're everything already. Yeah. But you don't know, because you are having this limited experience. Yeah. But it will reflect outwards. So it's like you have to see yourself at the center of reality. A lot of people talk about this, no? That you manifest your reality. Yeah. And in a sense, it is correct to a certain extent. Maybe not like how people think it is, but...
Especially not here, guys.
Yeah. No, I will create reality. You don't create the matrix. The matrix already exists. But you are attracting the opportunities and the lessons that you need to individually learn, whatever you're doing. And so it's like you have to have that awareness. What's happening actually in your reality? What are the signs? What are the messages? All the messages are there for you to evolve, the good and the bad. And so it's about becoming aware of that and not labeling it. If something is bad, doesn't mean it's bad. It just means it's a certain expression of your soul purpose or whatever in that moment, and how you're going to react to that, which gives you another opportunity to choose where you're going to go, where's your life going to head. And if you see it like this, not as good or bad, it's just opportunities. It's just a way to grow. Yeah. And it's about your own growth, ultimately.
100%. And this knowledge is making everything so much easier when you sit on your ass and you study those things of like, okay, it all starts very, very simple. It's getting more and more and more complicated. But as it, like, there's something humbling about this thing, because the more you think you know, the less you actually know. And the more you actually know, the less you're trying to show that you know anything, because you're at this point of like, okay, I know that I will never understand it fully, because I don't even know if it's, are we able to understand this?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Enlighten me. How?
Life is a journey. And if it's an infinite journey, it's kind of like the Fibonacci sequence and the golden ratio. I don't know if you understand how they're different. It's like the Fibonacci sequence is growing a certain numerical pattern, but the more it grows, the more the ratio will get closer to phi, the golden ratio.
Yeah.
The golden ratio is an infinite number. It's like the perfection that we'll never reach.
Yeah.
But life is like we're going on a trajectory towards it. And in the infinity, we will reach it when we never reach it. You see? So there's always another step in the evolution. There's always more to learn. It's like when you were a child and you look at yourself right now, what are all the things you learned until now? A lot of things. And maybe when you were a child, you thought maybe that's not possible. And yet it was. So that's why I'm saying, if you tell yourself you're never going to get it, then you never will. But if you tell yourself, yes, I'm going to get it, then it's just a step. It's like you're getting one step and you got something. You take another step, you understand something else. And in the journey of this infinite journey, you will get it.
Yeah. So what you're saying basically is that what needs to, I don't know if change, but like the goal that needs to be set needs to be different, because you don't need to look for the end goal there. You just need to be aware and conscious while you're going through the journey. Because I don't know if not getting it is what I meant, maybe more like the truth, like, it's so inside perception as I see it. Again, I don't know, it's all so subjective, and I'm such a people pleaser that I don't want to force an opinion on anyone. But I do understand the fractal thing, and the more you look at it, the more it will show to you, and you need to be inside it. But what I'm trying to get at, like, getting it, the purpose for creation,
getting it and embodying it. That's the thing. Like, yeah, you can understand that there's a harmony, but how do you apply that harmony in life? And that's where we really need this knowledge. Think about the world right now. Think about your life, how you do things. What could be done better? And I feel like that's what it shows us, how to bring ourselves in alignment with it, in harmony. How do we bring ourselves in alignment with nature? Such a simple thing, right? I mean, it's really simple. You're producing trash, yeah, it's not going to be good for Mother Nature. So it's such a simple thing, but it's not in our consciousness, you see, as a society. So how can we adapt to that thinking? Can we bring more harmony? And that's where the application comes in. It's an education in, like, acquiring knowledge, making things more simple, like understanding quantum physics and somehow applying it also in your life, like combining it with philosophy, and actually bringing out technologies that help us bring more harmony into society.
And at what point did you get so much into this knowledge and the understanding, and like, I gotta put it out, I gotta give it to other people, I gotta teach it, I gotta show it? Like, what was the shift? What was the trigger that made you like go for it?
It was at the very beginning, and it was the key for me to understand it, because I could not understand it just intellectually. It was not possible.
Yeah.
It's like if I give you a bunch of words, or like right now, I explain to you about the geometry, but if you don't see the shape, it's impossible for you to like imagine that. So for me, the teaching process was actually for me to get it. It's like becoming a teacher was like I'm becoming the student, because whatever I'm saying, I'm like, I'm understanding it now.
So you gotta keep your shit together, because you don't want to teach them things that are not right.
No, of course. It's a process, no? So you start to teach things that you become comfortable with. You go over it again, and then you slowly start to expand. It's through the drawing process, which came through the teaching, which was actually the key to understand the knowledge. That's what I'm saying. If people want to learn this, they actually have to get into the drawing.
Yeah.
Because the drawing, it will just rewire your brain.
That was a huge part, and I have countless hours of
Yeah.
drawing. So, whew.
Nice.
Yeah, and like even from the other side, I used to ask my tattoo artist to tattoo it super slow for me to remember the pattern. Psycho shit. Like draw it all over me. People know I have this fucking. It's everywhere, and it was a meditation for me. Like I was looking for the most physical way to remember those shapes, and I was like, okay, so just get it all over me for me to actually sit or lay in meditation and feel the circles coming one after another. And honestly, I know that this idea completely changed my life and countless other people. And what are some of the reactions that you get for this kind of knowledge? Because that's a full on like life mission to put this knowledge out there.
Yeah. The number one reaction I get is mind-blowing. This is like the one word that everybody's saying. It's mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. It's like I can see what happens to people because that happened to me. It's like you get the spark of like, I see things differently.
Yeah.
And once you start to see things differently, it changes you, It's can be something so subtle, but it's like a seed. And that seed can blossom into, you're changing your whole life, possibly. And that was completely how it was for me. Yeah. I had this like moment, it's like, oh my God, this is what I want to do. Yeah, I can see it now. And everything changed.
Yeah. And it's so, like we said earlier, the more it's inside, it will be more outside. And then like, okay, so your way, you're now teaching it. So you're getting even more into your own way. And then by helping yourself with it, by helping others with it, you expand it even more. And it becomes like this exponential process of you learning it. And for you in your root of this knowledge, where are you standing? Do you still have like new things that you discovered on it? Like what was the latest discovery at Sacred Geometry?
Oh,
The
latest discovery. I mean, there's still so many things that I don't understand yet, like I still have to dive into it. There was a lot of things that are on the mathematical side and the application of that mathematics that I find like very interesting in terms of technology. So on the one hand, there's all of this geometric knowledge and the way this knowledge changed my perception of the reality. One of the things was like how to see the 5 Platonic solids. Very different. I mean, we associated them to different elements, not like the traditional way. That changed the way I saw the things, and also the way they then expand in various ways. I mean, it's still clicking in, or there's another pathway that I didn't get. The numerical foundation to this. And now there's a part of it which is like, okay, that's the knowledge. But how do you apply that knowledge? How is that beneficial for humanity?
Yeah.
And that's where, technology can come in. It's like, how do you apply this in quantum computing? How do you apply this in energy generation? How do you apply this even in the way you organize society? I mean, other things that we're doing is actually on that level, not just the knowledge. It's like, how do you apply this? And at the moment, that's where, I have to wrap my head around this, because now I don't know so much about quantum computing, for example. Yeah. But we're going into that direction. Okay, how is that working? How is the blueprint actually applied in this? And that's what I currently learn also.
Yeah. It's so, this word is such an interesting thing, like creation and life itself becomes so much more interesting when your eyes open to this field of knowledge. And like, did you hear this theory? This dude, I can't remember his name, an actor that said something 1 × 1 = 2, and this whole thing with
Terrence Howard.
Yes, that's the name of the dude. What do you think about that? Gracefully.
First of all, I want to say it's so amazing that there's consciousnesses like him, speaking about these things and bringing awareness to this. Yeah, so of course, I think it's beautiful, and I think this guy is pretty intelligent, and like actually the people I also work with. And so I want to applaud people like that, to stand up and say things like that. Do I agree with what he's saying? No. Not 100%. I mean, we have our own mathematical foundation, which is quite different. So I would not agree with 1 plus 1 was it 1 times 1 equals 2. Yeah, I would not agree with that. But nevertheless, I think what he's done, that's very beneficial for the sacred geometry community, because more people are starting to talk about this. It's not like you can learn this anywhere. It's not like you can go, I want to study sacred geometry in university, because the awareness is not there.
Yeah.
But the more people start to speak about this, the more it comes into awareness, and the more people offer these things also, to actually learn.
Yeah, I want to recommend this. Like when I was younger, I think like 2021, I dove into a platform on YouTube called Spirit Science.
Yes, Spirit Science, yeah.
Yeah. So some of the things are questionable, but there's a lot of base to it. It's the easiest representation of sacred geometry that I've seen, to learn for a 20-year-old guy. So I would check it out, probably. But some of the other theories inside it, do you devil it? Like Anunnaki, things like that, like...
I mean, once you start to open that box, it goes into all sorts of...
infinite.
Yeah.
It's infinite how deep you can get inside those things. And honestly, for me, as a guy that is the main purpose of life at the end of the day is balance, I'm trying also not to run too deep into those, because it will shift you. Okay, because you can get fanatic over those kind of... I see how schizophrenia and sacred geometry can go hand in hand really good.
Yeah. Because once you start to get into this, you start to become aware of the multidimensional matrix. And, it's not a coincidence that some people are channels or whatever. They start to tap into knowledge that are beyond this realm. And it can get a bit crazy because you are detaching from here, because you're communicating another, it's like a radio, you're tuning into something else. And then the people don't understand that, right?
Yeah.
And so then, of course, people are being termed like schizophrenic or whatever. But actually, it's just a natural happening because you're opening yourself to other parts of the universe. I mean, just to bring it back into a grounded kind of sense, it's like there's so many paranormal phenomena. And that's something also, when I was a child that really intrigued me. I'm just very curious. How is this possible when you have got all the science which tell you it's not possible? So what if you have now a theory or a geometric structure that explains actually all of this mystical stuff now has a place with a very logical foundation. And I think this is where we are at the moment, because let's say Spirit Science or Terence Howard or whatever so many people actually interested in this field and have their own approach. Sometimes they're very woo, very, very spiritual, very high. And
Out
then,
there,
and some people don't connect with that because it's the way our education works. We're very grounded in a way, if I can, you don't prove it, doesn't exist. Which also I'm not really, even if you can't prove it, doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It's just maybe we don't have the means yet.
Yeah, we don't have the knowledge.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So now it's just about, we have all of this stuff going on, and it's like you have to bring it into alignment. And I think that's where we are placed. We're quite into the science, because the science is a grounded way. If you can prove something with a scientific framework that even scientists can't argue, and it goes to open up explaining all of that, then you're at a very good foundation.
So you think it's the same like we talked about the golden ratio and the Fibonacci, that like we can try and get as close as possible to the right answer, but will we ever have the right answer? Probably not, because always there's a matter of perspective. Always there's a matter of perception, and which is connecting to how you got raised and your traumas and how you choose to see life as a human. So are we even here to get the right answer, or just to experience? You know what I mean? Like, okay, we can get as close as possible to the right answer, but at the grand scheme of things, we are still human. And if someone thinks, when you see that someone thinks they have the answer, I have the answer, I bring you there's a lot of antagonism that is also coming into this kind of field.
Truth will prevail.
Yeah.
The truth will prevail.
Yeah.
I can say that.
That's for sure. And the fact that the more time is going forward and we see the acceptance of like discussions that is speaking like scientists and like Eric Weinstein that was talking to Terrence Howard about these things. Those kind of discussions, scientist and someone that is considering himself a professional at sacred geometry. We need more of those, you know. Until today, we've been so closed, and the scientists didn't want to talk to people like that because it lowering their grade or whatever it is. But there's so much more acceptance these days for knowledge.
It's ontology. The ontology is a problem because if you're in a certain field, then you have a certain ontology, a certain way of talking about things.
Yeah.
I mean, mathematics is very complicated, you know, and the foundation is already like, whoa, to getting into that, you need a certain mindset. And now you're communicating also with, I don't know, astrophysicists or, you know, chemists. It's different languages. This is the problem. But I think we're living now in a time with a lot of opportunities, and we have a language model that can help, and that's AI.
Yeah.
You know, artificial intelligence is already so far. It can help to transmit information and bring it to the different fields, bring it into their mindset. And I think that's where we started to elevate a lot as well, because now we have something that has access to all of this information and can understand you from where you are and put it into a different format that can reach different people.
And when you're doing events based on it or you're teaching, how does it usually go? Do you have like a structure that you know will get people into this world in a more like balanced, like understanding way? How would you do it? How are you doing it?
I mean, I'm guiding people through the creation of the multidimensional reality. So it's like there's a step-by-step process. You cannot skip a step because you have to.
Wait.
You have to go through the process. And so, yeah, I'm guiding the people through how dimensions are actually created, where they exist in, how does that reflect into the reality experience, and what is the message for themselves? How can you apply this? I mean, there are meditative practices that we're teaching, you know, like geometric meditations that have already been taught for many, many years. As well as like, let's say practical applications, you know, how do you structure your mind, for example, because even the way you think is a geometric process. How do you bring balance into your mindset? Where you're focusing on? What do you want to achieve in your life? You know, how do you see yourself with all of these aspects of yourself? So geometry can help in so many ways.
And how would you apply this theoretical knowledge to a physical like as a life lesson? If someone will ask you, listen, what is the bottom line of this entire study? I know I will probably avoid answering this question also, but what's the essence of it? What should we take from it?
The essence is you're living in the matrix, okay? Which means it's like a simulation. It's a code. Everything that's happening is not a coincidence. You are at the center of that matrix. And depending on your awareness of what's happening around you, you have to relate that to yourself. You don't need to understand how the matrix is working, but you need to become aware that it exists, which means there is no chaos. Everything has a purpose. Everything has a meaning. Every connection, everything you're doing, you know, is relevant. And so it's about becoming aware of that center. You are at the center of the matrix. You are the star. You're the main character. Yeah, you are the main character. And it's all about you. It's about you. So that alone, becoming aware of that center, becoming aware that you are actually in power here and that you need to understand what's happening so you can change the way you are, so you can reflect outwards into the reality that you want to live in. So you have already like a vision and you're pushing that vision and you're acting towards that vision, and then your life will change.
So much easier to live life from this kind of empowering, beautiful perspective than from everybody's trying to steal from me and take from me and I need to, you know, the survival instinct. It's so much easier to just think that and understand and absorb the fact that everything is so beautiful if you have the capacity to look at it as it is, you know, and so many mind barriers and again, trauma and the way you got raised that can separate you from the understanding that you are the center of things, that like without your perspective, let's take you for example, without your perspective right now of me talking, like this whole thing wouldn't even exist. Who am I and this place and this island and this world without your perspective, because you're perceiving it. So each perspective is so unique and so important to the grand scheme of things, that if I could give a gift to the entire human race, is just understand how precious and how beautiful your life is, and choose. It doesn't have to go from 0 to 100, and I'm looking straight at you. It doesn't have to be from 0 to 100, from 0 to 1, from 1 to 2, from 2 to 3. You are special, you are unique. Find the things that are important for you and just go for there, because we only die once. We live every day, that's for sure. But just being able to accept the fact, like, I think that a lot of people are super scared from how strong they are, and not from how weak or unpowered they are. I think that understanding that all this time that you thought that you were something that you're not, and you're something that is much bigger, can put some stress on people. But the more you will get connected to the idea that the more you do the stuff you love, the more energy you're gonna get around you, and the more power, that more momentum. I think that momentum is the strongest thing in life. Like you say, creation and the universe come on and off, from momentum to collapse, from momentum to collapse. And when we choose to look at life like that, everything becomes so much more easier. And now let's plug you a little bit. You have a program that you are going to make here on the island?
Many programs, yeah. But I will be contributing to a program that's happening in Kopangan at Lumina Casa, and it's a transformation hub, you could say, where sacred geometry has its place in terms of shifting our perception of reality, of ourselves, but also showing what's possible from this blueprint. What are the new technologies that come out of this, and also for people to invest. I think we're at the brink of something great. There's a paradigm shift happening. I think a lot of people are aware of this. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people waking up. We know that we're facing a lot of challenges in the world, wars and imbalances happening. The earth is screaming for our help. And I feel like now is the time, to shift our energy. Where do people put their energy? Do you want to shift it to or stay with the current system, or would you like to see an abundant system, where we're stepping into a beautiful future that shows us that technology can be aligned with nature, can be aligned with spirituality, can be a personal growth as much as it is a change that we see in the material world, and the change that we see in the education in our children. So I think there's a lot of people in this planet doing really good things. That underlying it all is always sacred geometry, whether they're aware of it or not. It is. And this is also what I'm contributing to this planet, that I'm contributing to this particular program that's happening, but also with my individual business, into infinity, where we are presenting this new knowledge to the world, to the mathematicians in the world, to the scientists around the world, and also how people that are spiritual can tap into this with a more logical framework. And so, yeah, I'm super excited what's going to happen in the future, because I feel like so many opportunities are coming out, and also an invitation to people to actually, if you feel like, you're resonating with this and you want to experience this and what it means to you and how it changes you, or if you feel like you want to invest in it as well, there is now, it's open. The platform is open, and there are possibilities now for people coming together and raising the vibration, because nobody can do it alone. You always need to do this in a group. And I feel like now people that resonate with each other, they attract each other, and then the magic can happen.
Exactly. Again, one of the reasons that I put all this on me, to attract those people, to be able to get more energy than just my own, because the lonely wolf theme doesn't work anymore. We cannot win like that. We have huge forces that are trying to not let us go to the places that we need to be at. And it's so important for us to bundle together and express the fact that the more we are together, the more energy, the more currency. Energy is the currency of existence. it is what it is. You know, wherever you put your attention, flowers will grow. That's it. And the more focus we can put together on those things, the easier and the better we're going to get together. And yeah, I am hopeful as well. I hear so many people all day long like, the world is going to a bad place and social media and this. Okay, bro, if that's what you choose to see, that's what will happen for you. I don't see the world like that. I see the world going to a beautiful place. It's already beautiful. Again, when I choose to shift my perspective into growing and to help others growing in their own paths, and just be a little bit more empathic and just a little bit more, I don't know, balanced. Just we all need to look a little bit inside of us to create a bigger, more better outer existence.
I think it's about people finding their purpose. Because once you're stepping into that purpose, then your energy will change. It's not like you're lost. I feel like a lot of people and that's okay as well, no? It's okay to be lost and maybe just float and not knowing what to do until maybe you find something and you're like, that's it. And once you get it, and it's like, okay, now I put my attention, my focus, my energy on this. And if everybody would do that, it's like an architecture. We're all dots, and all of a sudden the dots connect. And the vision, the overarching vision is actually the same for all of us. We all want to live in joy. Yeah. We all want to live in love and abundance and in a beautiful world where we feel like our individual potential, the genius in us, the creative potential in us can come out, can emerge in an environment where you feel like, yes, I can develop that skill, I can develop that passion that I have, and it's contributing to the collective. And if we all would step into this, then everything would be so easy. You don't need to own nothing. You just need to have the things in the moment you need them. That's really what abundance is. It's not about those 10 cars in the garage. Yeah. It's about having that transport when you need it, Huh. And I think it's a different mindset. It's like you are just part of the whole. You're part of the whole, and the universe will provide in the moment when you need it. And if you understand that, then all the fears will drop away. You can just be yourself and follow your passion.
Sounds about right. Heike, I want to thank you so much for being here with me today. I could do it for 16 more hours. I'm not going to take any more for your time. And let's do it again sometime. Yes. I have more questions. KohPhanCast, guys.
Bye.
Join the journey, stay for a while.